It's 11:02 and a very warm welcome to you. And you know this is a special program as always, celebrating 95 years of service to the nation, the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation, featuring veterans in broadcasting. And I am overjoyed, and I'm sure you too are, dear listeners, to have with us a very, very, very special guest here this morning, this Friday morning. It is indeed a privilege and honor for me to be able to interview a veteran broadcaster. Yes, a very good morning to you, Mrs. Merle Williams, nee Walpola. Thank you so much, Merle, for joining us here this morning.
Thank you very much. Indeed, this is most flattering for me to find myself at this end of the microphone.
Yes, you're with Radio Sri Lanka, and this is the 11th hour, very special program, as you know, featuring veterans from broadcasting. Yes, celebrating 95 years of the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation, and we have with us in the studio Merle Williams, nee Walpola, a veteran and who needs no introduction. So Merle, once again, thank you for accepting Indira Navagamuwa's invitation and joining us here.
Thank you.
Merle, you probably were one of the first women to head a training institute. And, I mean, can you run us through your leadership role as directress, or director rather, of the training institute here at the SLBC?
Oh, you're particularly talking about the training institute.
Yes, the training institute first,
right.
Yes.
Yes. Well, yes, that's true. I was the first woman director there.
Okay.
The first one was Stuart Wavell, who came from BBC, ex-BBC man. And then we had others, I cannot remember. I must have been the third or fourth director. One thing we had to persuade the directors of other services was to release their people for training. They thought of it as, my goodness, they are taking away my chaps, I've got work for them here. Yeah. They are going there to training. As if training was something, extraneous. And, oh my goodness, we had a time. Yeah. I said, we tell them, we are being unfair by these young men and women who should be trained and to are giving a better performance than they are doing at the moment.
Training is very important, isn't it, Mrs. Williams?
Training is extremely important. I myself was happy to be enrolled in training with the Deutsche Welle.
Okay.
I just took up a training school that came along, not realizing that this was going to be to change my life quite a bit.
Yes.
I went to Deutsche Welle, that school.
Yes.
And I found that you had to hand it to the Germans. They really know how to do a good job.
Yes.
My problem was a bit sometimes language.
Yes.
And I used to keep on giving them the English word, training them in talking English.
So you were lost in translation sometimes.
But we got on, and my goodness, I went 4 times to Deutsche Welle.
Wow.
On training, and then they had other courses also.
Yes.
And sometimes they used to particularly ask for me to like a follow-up course. And the 5th time I was invited to train Deutsche Welle.
In Germany?
I was one of a team of trainers in Germany.
Yes.
And in fact, I was asked to suggest a subject.
Yes.
And I said, how about youth programs?
Yes.
Young people's programs, Right now, I think judging for what's going on the air, there's something called birthday greetings for the kiddies.
Yes, the children's birthday. That's one of the oldest programs.
Well, after that, what? So the only thing is, for the teenagers, the pop music request programs.
Yes.
I said, let's have a program. Let's have, train people for youth programs.
Youth programs.
We did that.
Yes.
And came back home and initiated some of those programs. And they took like the ducks take to water.
Yes.
And
Mrs. Williams, what about your leadership role in the English service?
In
the English service. Did you, your kind of work with the English service later on? Was your training in Germany pivotal in perhaps strengthening the English service, be it the commercial or the national service?
I believe it was very, very important, very useful to have that training. And I could, even within the English service itself, sometimes it was the English national service, sometimes it was the English commercial service, or just the English service, national and commercial. Yeah. We went through all kinds of, changes. So whatever it was, I was able, even though at that time there was not a particularly solid training institute here.
Yes.
I was so lucky that I had been abroad for training. I could train my staff. Mm-hmm. So I got them, together, and they was followed up beautifully. They were wonderful people, and I think back on them. There's Jayanta Vijayaratna, Zilan Menas. There's, this drama man.
Richard de Soisa.
No, Richard used to be a visitor. I can't remember the name just now. They were all part of the producers in the English service. Okay. And I was able to give them ideas, and they picked it up like that.
Yes.
It was great. And after some time, I think after at least 5 years in English service, I was asked to come over to the training institute. Because they brought it up again, and they were looking out for someone to be the director there. Then after 5 years there, I found myself, due to various exigencies, overseeing the English service as well as the training institute.
Wow! So two places at the same time.
It was very, very, interesting. You just didn't feel the time go.
Yes.
That was thing. And the outcome of new and interesting programs, and people began to realize, training is necessary.
Yes. Mrs. Williams, were you a disciplinarian when it came to standards?
Yes, I'm afraid I am.
Okay.
I was, but I used to discipline gently.
Yes.
I did like this business of sending a terse note.
Yes.
And I used to call them over.
Okay.
Talk to them and said, this won't do.
Okay. Be it from pronunciation to...
That's right. And sometimes they responded better.
Yes, of course.
Always.
Yes.
And... we just kept the terse notes for really bad.
So were the young announcers scared of you?
I hardly think so. But I like to think that they took from me a love of radio, a love of doing the right thing, and spending enough time, giving enough of your time for it. And it's not something that you did on the run.
Yes.
Radio, because in your spare time you should be listening to radio. Mm-hmm. If you're not actually broadcasting.
Yes.
Broadcasters must also be very, it's important that they become listeners too.
Yes. It's very interesting you brought out drama, so I think I must mention your daughter too was at the SLBC.
Exactly.
And is a big name in the field of English drama today. So let's talk a bit about that.
Right. She was coming out of school.
Okay.
And the universities were not in any shape.
At the time.
At that time. It was, so we were looking around for something to do. And he said, why don't you? And SLBC.
Of course, and said, for our dear listeners, it's Merle Williams. Yes.
And why not ask her to come and be a relief announcer?
Okay.
I said no permanency at the moment, just relief announcer.
Okay.
And she got through the test, and she not only announced, she on the transmission, she presented a children's program, and around about that time, TV came in.
Okay.
And Nidra said, may I try that? I said, why not?
So you were as progressive as your father?
I was.
Yes.
I felt however much it hurt me, I must not stand in the way of her, progress.
Yes.
And she took to that also like a duck takes to water.
Yes.
And she was, she presented the news on television.
Yes.
And did some kind of interview program also. Of course, her hobby was acting.
Yes.
She loved acting. And she was one of the people who went on the
various, even international exposure at the time as well.
That's right. And she kept up her interest in drama even after getting married, because she was fortunate that her husband also
Jahan Bastian
is a great
theatre
personality in his own right, and together they did quite a lot of drama. I used to go and help them and behind stage and all that. It was great fun.
So, Mrs. Williams, I think Radio Ceylon also perhaps had an influence on that. Let's take a little bit of credit for that too.
I'm sure it did. Yes. I used to take part in the radio dramas.
Okay.
And I learned quite a few things from there.
Well, our producer, has brought back Family Panorama over the weekends.
Right.
On Saturday and Sunday, yes.
That's great.
So, yes, you were part of those radio dramas as well.
That's right. And we had Hector Jayasinger, who was the drama man at the time. And I used to be given little roles in his plays and all that, because no pay. Since I'm one of the staff, no pay.
No pay. Yes.
But I really enjoyed it.
Yes. Well, we are coming to the end of the program, but I have to ask you this. Mrs. Williams, your advice to the young broadcasters out there, to those entering the field, and to the radio broadcasters out there, as a veteran, what do you have to say?
All I can say is what I discovered for myself, that it's a tremendous responsibility.
Yes.
You may love the job and get a kick out of it, true, but there is also a tremendous responsibility that you do it well.
Yes.
And to do it well, you have to be absorbed in it. Listen to other broadcasters, good broadcasters from everywhere. Not only here, but from foreign stations also.
Yes.
And test yourselves, check yourself to see that you are not going stale, that you are keeping up your exuberance, your interest in what is happening around. Radio is first and foremost information. Then comes entertainment.
Yes.
First and foremost, it's information. And it's so important that you convey that to the best of your abilities.
And I think the radio is a form of mass media that would never die, because you can still listen to the radio and do a lot of other things.
It's the quickest.
Exactly.
It's the quickest. I can give you a little anecdote. When Indira Gandhi was assassinated, it was radio that went on the air first.
Okay.
Before TV could even get its cameras together, we were on the air giving the news to the world.
That's great. I mean, in terms of the dissemination of information.
Yes.
And anywhere in the world, Radio Ceylon.
Radio.
And especially Radio Ceylon too.
Radio Ceylon is still remembered.
Yes. Well, Mrs. Williams, it has been an absolute pleasure being behind the microphone with you. We're in conversation with Merle Williams Nei Walpola. But before we wind up the program, Merle, to all your fans out there, your message, your greetings perhaps for the season, and your voice once again to all those fans who you entertained for decades in the past. It's time for you to greet them.
Hello. It's been wonderful talking to you. Keep well.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Merle Williams Nei Walpola, from a director and veteran in broadcasting here at the English service, be it the national or the commercial, in English broadcasting at large. It has been once again an absolute pleasure and an honor to be behind the microphone and to be able to speak to you this Friday morning. And here's wishing you all the very best, Mrs. Williams, in everything you do. And of course, your voice is still the same. And wishing you every happiness and success. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us here at the SLBC. Once again, special thanks to Indira Navagamua, our controller and producer, and of course, Heshma Samath on the other side. Thank you for facilitating this program. And with that, we wind up the 11th hour this Friday morning. We were in conversation with Mrs. Merle Williams Newalpala, senior and veteran broadcaster here at the SLBC or Radio Ceylon.